Previously on the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast.
Next month will be our 40th show, not counting bonus episodes, and also will be the 100th book overall that we will have reviewed, if you count the first 60 books from the original version of the podcast. And so I'm going to pick a Doctor that I haven't yet picked for a book for our show yet.
Okay.
And I'm going to pick a book with a title that pays tribute to the longest-running character in the series.
Ooh.
So for June, we're going to be reading Blue Box by Kate Orman.
Excellent. Oh, brilliant. And we've not done Kate Orman for a while. And I've not read Blue Box. So, yeah. Oh, fantastic.
And now our story continues.
Welcome, everyone, to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. This is Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. How's it going?
Well, not only am I continuing to shelter in place, but I'm also now under a curfew. So, for context for listeners, this is being recorded after the murder of George Floyd in Minneapolis. And at the time of recording, one of the former police officers has been arrested and charged with murder, but the other three have not been charged yet. And there's been some peaceful protests as well as some looting and vandalism, and the Twin Cities is under a curfew this weekend, so no travel anywhere after 8 p.m. Each day. So, yeah, it's been...
challenging times.
Yeah, and very sad, too, about, the tragedy that happened, and I think a lot of the anger that's being expressed is very justified as well. But all of this while a pandemic is going on top of it. So it's definitely living through some interesting times, as the saying goes.
Yeah, certainly in the UK, I'm getting very frustrated at living through history. I do long for times where things are more normal and peaceful.
2020 will be a pretty hefty chapter in the history books, I think.
Yes.
And probably more to come with the election this fall and such, too. So
yeah.
Fun stuff.
Dear.
But how have you been?
Yeah, okay. We seem to be easing a little bit out of the lockdown. I must say I'm glad that we don't have kids, because kids may be going back to school for some years on Monday, or might not. No one seems too sure. Oh dear, it's just... I think over it. I think really.
Yeah.
It's beautiful weather. I would love to be at the beach, but I'm also wanting to be responsible. And living in South London, my beach options are somewhat limited and will be heavily oversubscribed. And I don't want to add to the problem. And don't want to catch anything.
So in terms of schooling, has there been a lot of remote schooling going on, like classes from home and stuff for kids? Because I know Matt is a high school teacher, so he had to shift and do all of his teaching online, and may have to do some of that next fall as well, depending. But of course, we've got the summer break.
Yeah, I think there's been a lot of homeschooling going on rather than necessarily remote schooling. I know that the BBC's been doing lots of podcasts to help people with homeschooling. There's a guy called Joe Wicks who has become Britain's PE teacher. I don't know whether he's still doing this, but certainly at the start of lockdown, every weekday morning he would be doing a PE lesson for all the country. And he wasn't being paid, he was just doing it on his YouTube channel. And there's lots of lovely little things like that. That's the thing that kind of gives me some hope in all of this, is that you're seeing good sides to people.
Yeah. Well, how about some escapism?
Yes, like some light-hearted escapism.
So this month we're reading Blue Box by Kate Orman, which is a Sixth Doctor and Peri adventure. But before we get there...
Do we want to do show and tell?
I say, why don't you go first this month?
Yeah, okay, because I've got a cool one.
Okay.
So, because of lockdown, there's been quite a few talks and lectures and presentations that would have normally been in person and would have meant having to go into central London or various other locations. Yeah, and now you can access all these things online. So, I attended a talk with Vinny Patel.
The writer of Demons of the Punjab.
Yes, and also as well of the Empty June episode that had a little bit of consequence in the most recent season.
Did he write that one as well?
Yeah. He co-wrote that one with Chris Chibnall.
Okay.
Yeah, it was a very interesting interview. It was by the London Literary Salon, who have been doing a lot of talks, and it was fascinating because his background is in theatre, and he apparently has just finished working on a new play, which was originally going to be a Doctor Who story. And so I thought, oh, that's interesting. Yeah, it started off in theatre, but he'd always been interested in science fiction. So whilst I don't think he's necessarily a Doctor Who fan, it was something that that fitted well. So I mean, obviously he didn't give any hints as to whether he would be coming back for the next season or anything. But interestingly, he did talk about what the process was like for writing Demons of the Punjab. And apparently he had basically at one point the writer's room, because that was the system they were using for that season, kind of sort of concluded that the script wasn't working, and so he had to go away and redo. And he felt it was right, but he also was quite upset about it as well. And also the thing that I felt quite sad about was that the talk was maybe in like the first or second week of May, and he said that he hadn't actually had contact with a human being since about his birthday. And his birthday was just before lockdown, and it was oh
wow,
bless him. But yeah, I mean, which I guess, if you're in a situation where you are locked down by yourself, then that would be what would happen.
Mm-hmm. Did he talk at all about the similarities with the aliens that he came up with in that story to the testimony AI that Moffat created in Twice Upon a Time? Curious if he talked about that at all.
Not really, no. I mean, he was more talking about the writing process and the steps he took to become a writer and things like that, rather than specific Doctor Who related things. And even though it was a kind of like a Q&A aspect to it, and I thought, I'm not going to ask anything particularly Doctor Who-y, because I don't know how much of this audience will be particularly interested in some of the minutiae. And also, it was really cool that he was doing this, and just in case there's any, don't want him getting into any trouble if he ends up speaking too freely.
On that note about different productions and things being made available online, I've seen that there have been quite a few stage productions featuring previous Doctor Who actors that have been made available for free to watch, including I think there was a Shakespeare play with, and I don't recall the title, but I think David Tennant and Catherine Tate are both in it.
I think that's Much Ado About Nothing. It's either that or As You Like It, but yes. Yeah.
So that's cool that more of that is more accessible to more people. Is always good.
Yeah, there are lots of things. It's brilliant how so many theatres and various other things are putting a lot of their content online, obviously with the hope that people, if they're in a position to do so, can donate just to help. But in June, Matt Smith is going to be doing a socially distanced production from an empty London theatre.
And I heard football's coming back too, in some form.
In some form, yes, of sorts. Yeah. So who knows whether that will actually happen? But yeah, and people are it's going to be behind closed doors, and yeah, we shall see. I was being reminded today by social media that it's a year since the Cricket World Cup started, and I just think how much the world has changed since then. And because I went off volunteering for that, and I was just like, well, we have such beautiful weather. Yesterday I would have been at a music festival that got cancelled. Yeah, next week we'd be going off to a cricket match that's been cancelled, which we had tickets for. But I mean, the main thing is that we're alive and well, so that's which is good. But yeah. Anyway, sorry, we were digressing, and I think we ran out of steam on Vinny Patel. So what's your show and tell?
So this month I wanted to talk about Time Lord Victorious, which is an upcoming multimedia project that's been announced by the BBC. and it looks like James Goss is the producer or one of the producers. And some of these dates may change, as
events unfold.
Yeah, like everything else this year. But it was originally conceived to launch in September of 2020, including an escape room component, which may or may not happen, and last over 12 weeks through January of 2021. And it's set within the dark times at the start of the universe, even when the Eternals were young, which is intriguing. And it features the 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors, and as well as those 3 Doctors, Rose Tyler has been confirmed. The character, Billie Piper's participation has not. And much like I suspect Chris Eccleston will not be. The 9th Doctor will appear on novels or comic form. But the Ood and the Daleks are also going to appear, and it includes participation from Titan Comics, Penguin Random House, BBC Books, Doctor Who Magazine, Escape Hunt, which is the escape room company, Big Finish, and a company called Immersive Everywhere, which I wasn't familiar with, but I think they do like flash mob stuff.
Yeah. I can see that not happening as well. I mean, one would imagine that the escape hunt and escape room and any immersive theatre stuff will probably not be key to the story. Because I expect they'll probably try to do the escape room so that you could enjoy it without having seen anything else. From it.
I was hoping that Maze Theory was going to be one of the companies announced. They're currently developing 3 different Doctor Who games for the Nintendo Switch, one of which is an adaptation of their VR game that they released last year, but they weren't one of the companies announced in it. On Twitter, James Goss mentioned that after the first 2 novels were announced, one is The Night, the Fool, and the Dead by Steve Cole, which features the 10th Doctor and the Ood, and the other is called All Flesh is Grass by Una McCormick, who we reviewed last month, featuring the 8th, 9th, and 10th Doctors and the Daleks. But after those 2 books were announced, James Goss said that that's about 1/10 of the total content, which leads me to think, doing the math, that there'll probably be around 20 pieces of fiction or so total. But it reminds me a bit of, do you remember in the mid-90s, Star Wars had the Shadows of the Empire franchise?
Yeah.
It was like a tale set between episodes 5 and 6.
Yeah, I only read the comics, and to be fair, I actually only read the comics, so it's relatively recent when Dark Horse had a kind of like a closing down of the Star Wars license deal. But yeah, it's a brave, interesting concept. Certainly, I'm interested in it if it's kind of showing, because I understand it's probably likely to be showing the 10th Doctor towards the end of his tenure, where he's a little bit going possibly a little bit dark. So that there are interesting stories to be told there. But I do worry as to how bloated it's going to be, how comprehensible it's going to be. So, yeah.
And it's hard, too, because, I think the purpose, of course, is, if you're only interested in the books or if you're only interested in the audios, it might help fans branch out a little bit more and experience, new mediums. But, yeah, it probably is going to be a pretty expensive endeavor to collect all the pieces of this. I think the closest thing Doctor Who has done to this was probably the Darksmith Legacy, which was a 10th Doctor story that was told over 10 different books, and then there was an interactive website component. But this is certainly, much broader or larger scale than that.
Yeah.
But yeah, it's my show and tell, and I'm looking forward to it and intrigued. And anytime the 8th Doctor interacts with, new series content is a win in my book. I'm one of those fans who's been, championing for a Paul McGann web series or something for several years. But
yeah, it's something to look forward to. And also as well, most of the aspects of this feel like things that won't be postponed apart from the escape room. So, because a lot of this, I imagine, has already been created, but the stuff that's still needing to be created sounds like it's things that could be done from people's homes.
And maybe they'll adapt some of the in-person content to be more like, go watch these YouTube videos or something.
Yeah, possibly. I mean, you can do escape rooms at home. I know there are companies that are doing that. That are sending you things so that you can do escape room from the privacy of your own home.
That sounds fun. kind of different.
Not sure that I'll be rushing to do an escape room from home, but yeah. So anyway, certainly, yeah. As I say, it is nice to have something to look forward to.
So this month we've read Blue Box by Kate Orman, and this is our second book we've reviewed by Kate. So you can refer back to Seeing Eye for her bio, but just kind of a brief summary. She's written 6 Version New Adventures, 4 Eighth Doctor Adventures, 1 Past Doctor Adventure, 1 Telos novella, 1 Benny book, and then several short stories, both in various Benny collections and Decalogue and short trips and such. So very prolific author, although I don't think she's ever written any of the new series novels.
No, this is her last Doctor Who novel.
Oh, I didn't realize this was her last one.
Yeah, well, at least to date. Yeah. It is quite remarkable that she was the only female New Adventures writer. There are plenty of interesting interviews that you can find of her. And before we started recording, I was reading a kind of like a mini essay that she wrote about the writing of Left-Handed Hummingbird on the New Zealand Time Space Visualizer site, which was fascinating. When I remembered Kate Orman talking about Faust Forward as being a Sixth Doctor adventure set in Australia, it was Sixth Doctor adventure, but there was another book that she was going to write set in Australia called Empty Spaces. So I don't think that ever came to pass.
Well, she could send both of those outlines to Big Finish, and I'm sure they'd be happy to make a few more lost stories.
Yes! Yeah, indeed. Well, now they've got rid of the monthly range, so...
Oh, did they entirely? When?
Yeah. So they've announced that. So I think it's as of release 275 or something like that. They are going to be getting rid of the monthly ranges. Instead, it will be a series of box sets.
Well, they could have gone to 300.
Yeah, they could have.
But that would have been another 2 years. But no. 275 is a good number to cut it off at.
It is, because they had been receiving a lot of feedback that people don't know where to begin. And also, as well, you do have a lot of classic audio stories very early on, but over 20 years, they have, funnily enough, learned how to tell a story on audio a lot more than they did in the early days. Yeah, I was listening to quite a few of the early Big Finishes. Yeah, when I was commuting, those halcyon days. Yeah, and there'd be quite a bit of, well, not a lot of dialogue, but there'd be a bit of dialogue of, what is this? And then describing something. Yeah, a lot of description in the dialogue, and just going to go, yeah, we moved away from that a bit.
Yeah, they've refined that over the years quite a bit.
Yeah.
Well, you had mentioned that Kate Orman, this was her last book she had written, and so this was published in March of 2003. And it was the 59th Past Doctor adventure out of 76 total, so closer to the end of the range. And it's dedicated to the memory of Jack Warren Orman, who had passed away in 2001, and I think was her father.
Yeah.
And then the structure of this book is interesting in that there's a prologue called REM, which features some recurring imagery of a girl riding a bull across an ocean.
Yes.
And then it's followed by chapters 10 through 120.
Yes.
The titles are at intervals of 10, except for one chapter, which is called 65.
Do you know why that is?
So I'm wondering if it is based on binary or computer programming or something like that.
So an REM, a REM statement it stands for remark. It's kind of like a comment to the coders. So you would often see it as, hello, dear listener, I used to write computer programs. So some of these things are going to be in my wheelhouse. So if you're going to make a comment to future readers of the code, you would use a REM statement.
So it kind of has a double meaning there with the dream of the girl and REM sleep, and then the interesting. Yeah,
and also as well, programmers typically would write their lines in multiples of 10. Certainly in the 80s when they was doing things in BBC Basic and stuff, because that would give you space to go back. So if you suddenly realise, oh, hang on, I need to do another line between 10 and 20, you could enter in a line 15, and you wouldn't have to renumber all of the rest of your program.
So I wonder if that chapter called 65 is a later addition that she went back and
I think
added then.
Possibly so, yes.
And then each section is then broken in 1 to 4 chapters. In terms of location, this book takes place over the Christmas holiday in 1981 in both the Baltimore and Washington, D.C. areas. So it's technically a Sixth Doctor Christmas special, although it doesn't feel particularly Christmassy, except for maybe a couple moments.
Yeah, it's as Christmassy as Gremlins or Die Hard, isn't it? It's stuff that happens at Christmas.
Mm-hmm. And I'd probably set this maybe between Revelation of the Daleks and Trial of a Time Lord. It certainly helps explain how the Doctor and Peri's relationship has mellowed over time.
Yeah.
One of the subplots of this book is Peri thinking about her initial reasons for traveling with the Doctor and whether those have changed over time.
Yeah.
And then I was wrong about blue box in the title referring to the TARDIS. It refers to a phone hacking device. And in fact, the TARDIS isn't even mentioned in the story. It's referred to as a ship or a boat that the Doctor and Peri are sailing around on.
Yes. Yeah.
Did you ever get into any... So, a lot of this book is, there is some computer hacking involved.
What are you going to ask me on a recorded?
But, so, when I think about phone hacking,
Yes.
there was a couple of phone-related things I remember growing up. There was a phone number you could call to get the time. And then there was another, test phone number you could call and then hang up, and then you'd immediately get a call back on, an empty line.
Oh,
So I remember using that one on parents, grandparents, and babysitters growing up.
well, the thing that you rang up at the time, the speaking clock, that's only recently been stopped over here.
Oh.
Yeah. When I say recently, it's one of these things that we were probably talking about in the last 5 years.
Sure.
but,
Relatively recently.
But but relatively recently, yeah. And they've had celebrities doing it, often for for charity purposes. I want to say that Anton Deck, of whom most people have probably never heard, apart from the fact that they briefly appear in the movie Love Actually.
I remember they were against Eccleston, Saturday Night Takeaway, the first year, yeah.
Indeed. Yes, that kind of stopped the takeaway for a while. And then the takeaway got revived just in the time of the pandemic, as they were trying to send people to Miami. No, not sending anyone to Miami at the moment, guys. But yeah, talking about phone hacking made me remember that there was a cool little thing that you used to be able to do in the late 90s. It was the SMS, the text message protocol in those days was not quite as stringent as it is now. And you could easily, via websites, sort of spoof which number your text message was coming from. So you could send somebody a text message and they thought it was coming from somebody entirely different.
Huh, interesting.
I never did that. Never did that at university. No.
Well, I think we should get onto the book before something else horrible happens. So let's cast our mind back to winter of 1981. It feels like this book would fit right into the world of Wonder Woman 84, but I wouldn't know that because that film's been delayed until at least August.
And the rest, yeah.
So this book it's presented as a work of nonfiction written by an investigative journalist named Charles Peters. And Charles has a nickname Chick Peters. And he is an expatriate Australian living in America.
Yeah.
And so this is told from his perspective, so there's bits of missing pieces, and some of the underlying facts and names have been changed too. For example, I'm pretty sure Kate Orman knows that Peri's surname is Brown and not Smith.
Yeah.
So shall we begin?
Yeah, let's start. Yeah, so the story begins in Washington, D.C. in Christmas 1981. And so, as we say, this is from Chick's point of view. There's an American college student going by the name of Perry Smith, who has been travelling with an Englishman named the Doctor. And he has promised to take her home to her family. And he's even dressed in a tailored black suit for the occasion, rather than his usual multicoloured patchwork coat.
His tie, however, is multicolored.
Yes.
And it features interlocking cats, which I thought was a nice touch.
But the thing I think is quite nice about this is that Kate Orman has dressed Colin Baker's Doctor in the costume that Colin Baker wanted.
Yeah, he wanted more of an Eccleston style.
Yeah,
get out.
He wanted a black suit. Yeah, he wanted a character that could just blend into the background.
That's kind of what he wore quite a bit on Brothers, the series where he played the baddie in the 70s too.
Yeah, I think so. I've only seen images of Brothers, but yeah. So the Doctor and Peri have arrived in the wrong part of the country and also not quite at the right time. And then the Doctor disappears whilst Peri is eating at a children's restaurant. Which is a thing we don't really have in the UK. I just remember kind of like Chuck E. Cheese and stuff like that being a staple part of American culture, or at least in the bits of America that I lived in.
The timing of that, I mean, I'm sure there were children's restaurants before that too, but I think Chuck E. Cheese and like Showbiz Pizza really took off like in 82 or 83.
Okay.
Even that reference might be a little early based on when the story's set.
But yeah, so Peri initially thinks that the Doctor's been kidnapped and that she too might be in danger. But after a day, he telephones her in her motel room and orders her to contact a guy called Bob Salmon, who's a young sysadmin. So he's he's an IT guy for the local university. And Bob had once helped the Doctor to extract a backdoor program that had been installed in government software by some evil programmer. We'll try not to get too techie in this, but I think there is a danger to it, and this book can get quite techie. So I think one of the things that'll be interesting in our discussion is because I come from a technical background.
I do not.
You do not. Yeah, so it'll be interesting to see our differing takes on it. But yeah, so Bob is shaken when the Doctor informs him, when he gives us a call, that he wants them to steal something from a woman called Sarah Swan.
And Sarah Swan she's kind of the main antagonist of the story. And she's a hacker who works for TLA, which is a defense contracting firm.
Yes.
And it's not the real name of the company, but it's the name that the narrator uses.
So, speculation time. So TLA, which stands for three-letter acronym. I'm guessing IBM. Because Kate Orman made references to IBM in Seeing Eye, and so many of the people that were doing Doctor Who books around the turn of the century were involved at IBM in some capacity or other. So Justin Richards, Peter Anglides, that's my hunch. But anyway, TLA.
Who did you picture, like if you had to cast Sarah Swan, like who did you have in your mind? Did you have, because for me she seemed like an older Sharon Stone or Michelle Pfeiffer type, I would say.
Interesting. I didn't really, but now that you've asked me the question, I think I might cast somebody like Julia Roberts, or kind of like as she is now. Certainly there is a power about her.
Sandra Bullock in The Net.
I've never seen The Net.
Oh, it's worth seeing now, very like in an ironic sense.
Right.
It's a bad movie, but
yeah, okay.
One movie that this whole book reminded me of in a good way was Sneakers, if you've ever seen that.
Yes.
Kind of more analog than digital in terms of some of the spying, and some of that's, I think, related to the level of technology, because, this is pre-internet, but they're talking about, is it the ARPANET?
Yes.
The precursor to...
Yeah, which becomes the internet. Yeah, I think Sneakers' legacy is felt in this book. Yeah.
So Sarah Swan is legendary for her ability to hack into any computer system, and she's known for destroying the lives of anyone who crosses her. So despite this, Bob and Peri, and Bob's kind of interesting because there's references to some sort of event or thing that happened when Bob was 15 and he's 20 now. It's an earlier adventure that the Doctor had with him called the Xerxes Incident, and I think this is like an off-screen adventure.
Yeah.
And he thinks that the Doctor's come back to ask him to travel with him, but he doesn't. And Bob reveals later that he would have, if the Doctor asked him, he would say no, because he realizes that they're kind of on the cusp of the internet being born, and he wants to live through and experience all of that. So he kind of makes the offhand comment that even if the Doctor asked me to travel with him, I wouldn't do so until at least, like the 1990s.
Yeah, too late then.
Yeah. But so then Bob and Peri are trying to infiltrate TLA, which is the firm that Swan is a part of. And so they're making some fake phone calls trying to convince that company's supplier Keyworth Computers that TLA has ordered a new computer for delivery. And this is roundabout where our dramatic reading is for the month. Got a special guest for this month. This is Sean, who's the original co-host of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast, as well as the Classic Horror Cast and the TARDIS Tavern and the Columbo Confab and the 1001 Movies podcast. And I'm sure there's a few others that I failed to mention, but let's have a listen.
Peri chewed on her bottom lip while Bob flipped through the white pages. They can't see you, he reminded her. I'm okay, said Peri, dialing. Hi, she said faintly when a voice answered. She cleared her throat. Hi, Trina. This is Alice calling from TLE. We need a lisp machine right away. I mean, like 5 minutes ago. She put her hand over the mouthpiece. She's checking if they have one, she hissed. What are we going to do if they don't have one? Bob just shook his head, waving his hands at the phone. Hello? Oh, you've got one in stock. Great. Look, can I send one of our technicians over to collect it? It's super urgent. The boss is really riding me on this one. Peri broke into a relieved smile. Yeah, that's what she's like. All right. I don't know what they do with all this stuff. They're probably playing video games up there. Bob looked scandalized. Okay. You can call Robert Lincoln Projects to confirm the order. She rattled off a number. I'll send a couple of guys over there as soon as you do. Thanks. I mean it. You've saved my life. She put the phone down and collapsed in the chair. Oh my God, she said. Oh my God. I told you, said Bob. If you sound confident and friendly and in a hurry, people will do anything for you. He stared at the ceiling as he thought out loud. Our next problem is making you look like a delivery guy. Peri just looked at him blankly. I need you to help me move that computer, said Bob. And once we get into the TLA building, I'll set it up while you look around. It's the perfect cover. It's not stealing, is it? Said Peri. We're not going to keep the thing. The phone rang. Bob coolly reached over and picked it up. TLA, he said, his voice suddenly surprisingly deep. This is Robert Link. Can I help you? Peri heard Trina's voice again, this time as a tinny murmur in Bob's ear. Yes, that's right. Can you expedite that for me? Yes, good, thank you. He hung up without saying goodbye. What just happened? Said Peri. The receptionist at Keyworth Computers called back to double-check the order. I forwarded Robert Link's phone to our phone. He tapped the plastic of the hotel telephone. Now she'll be convinced we're legitimate. Let's get going. Why do I have to dress up like a guy? Said Peri. Oh, come on, said Bob. Oh, come on what? A girl like you delivering heavy computer equipment. No one's going to believe that. Well, what are we supposed to do? Stick a mustache on me? The grin was on Bob's face just long enough for her to notice. Oh, my God, Peri said again. They stuck a mustache on her.
Thanks, Sean, for reading that.
Yeah, thank you.
And thank you for... We wouldn't be here if today without you, so...
So
thank you for that as well.
Yeah.
So they put a mustache on Peri, which was hilarious. And Peri and Bob go undercover to deliver this computer, and Swan is watching Bob set up the computer, and kind of they leave before they are able to get any information. And Swan's very suspicious of them and has taken a photograph of their van, which she can use to track down, via the license plate number, who they are and what they want.
So this is where Chick Peters actually starts to enter the narrative properly. So he's been going on a date with the receptionist at Keyworth Computers that Peri had tried to hoodwink. And he learns of this slightly odd crime and arranges to speak with Swan. And she agrees to let him have the story as long as he disguises her identity. So Chick then calls his contact, a guy called Ian Mond, who's a hacker that once fell foul of Swan and has been living in fear of her ever since. Also, apparently, Ian Mond is the name of a Doctor Who fan that was quite well known at the time. I must say, I'd never heard of him. So, or at least it wasn't a name that I recognised. Let's put it that way. So, apologies, Ian, if you're listening. So, I gather from some contemporaneous reviews that people were saying that it jumped out at them, but it certainly doesn't jump out at me. I mean, it's not like he's called Ian Levine or something.
Yeah.
Yeah. Okay. So Sarah Swan has identified the van that Bob and Peri are using as being university property, and Ian Mond identifies Bob Salmon as the only employee with the know-how to pull off something like this. So he drives Chick to Bob's home and wiretaps his phone so they can learn more. And the Doctor eventually contacts Peri and Bob, but claims that the people he's working for won't let him get anyone else involved. And the Doctor realises that the phone's being tapped, and Peri and Bob try to flee. But Chick follows them to a local shopping mall and makes contact, and tries to assure him that his interest is purely neutral. As long as they let him in on the story, he won't tell Swan where to find them.
I wish every story was set in an 80s shopping mall.
Yeah.
Oh. So when the Doctor next contacts them, the Doctor agrees to speak with the reporter Chick, presumably in order to keep an eye on him. And Chick Peters meets the Doctor in a downtown hotel where he watches the Doctor use a modified Apple II to hack into the TLA mainframe and snoop around. Apple IIs, by the way, were the computers that I had growing up in my elementary school computer lab.
Oh, cool.
So I have some familiarity with them.
Yeah.
There was a computer firm in Minnesota that was state-funded that was known for developing quite a few different educational programs that were used throughout the states, and I don't know if they were used overseas as well, but games like Oregon Trail, Odell Lake, Circus Math, those are all MECC.
Yeah. I've heard of Oregon Trail. In the UK, at least, the market was primarily dominated by the BBC Micro, which was a computer that the BBC put out. Yeah.
And weren't there even like programs like on BBC Two and such that were like dedicated to teaching programming language? And I think there was some I've seen like YouTube clips of some of those.
Yeah, from what I understand. So, I mean, I think it certainly proved the backdrop of the... provided lots of people their gateway into computing, though they were quite expensive. I think BBC Micro was about 150 quid in those days. I wouldn't want to think how much that would be in modern money. I would think, though, I don't know, I guess maybe £1,000.
So kind of comparable to like the Commodore 64, which I think was around priced around like $300 in the States.
Yeah, possibly so, yeah.
So it's Christmas Eve, but Swan is still at work, and she catches the Doctor snooping inside the mainframe, virtually logged in, and kicks him out, but then he logs himself back in with access to the root account, logs off Swan from her computer, and then starts downloading all of her emails.
And we see the commands he uses.
Yeah.
And certainly, I won't say, hand on heart, all of the little parameters that they use are correct. However, certainly, I was just kind of going, okay, Kate Orman, you know what you're talking about.
And they use different fonts in the book, too, to kind of denote the, when they're in the computer versus out. And then we forgot to mention, too, that this book's available on Kindle.
Yeah. You don't have the different fonts on the Kindle, unfortunately. But... hey-ho.
So then the Doctor and Swan are doing battle electronically, and then, while that's happening, Bob and Peri break into TLA again and wait for the word from the Doctor, who finds a clue he needs going through Swan's emails, that the device he's looking for, that they originally wanted to steal when they were delivering that computer earlier, is located in the basement of TLA. So then Swan gives up, disconnects her computer from the ARPANET, and then checks on the device in the basement to make sure it's safe, unwittingly leading Bob and Peri right to it. It's kind of in a file cabinet, and then they're unable to unlock the file cabinet, so they just take the whole thing with them and bring it back to Bob's home, where the Doctor and Chick are waiting, and they're able to break open the container. And then Bob is surprised to find that the Doctor's changed since their last meeting, which I think is a reference to like an earlier regeneration. But again, this is kind of through Chick Peters' eyes, and he's, they're very much keeping him in the dark about time travel and, the Doctor being an alien and such.
Yeah. Because this isn't the Fifth Doctor story. If it was the Fifth Doctor, he would just start going off about, about argon energy and everything, and Chick would have had 20 trips in the TARDIS.
Yeah, we don't get that. So Peri's upset at being left out, but the Doctor explains that the people he's working for didn't leave him a choice, and that there's still a second device of unknown origin out there somewhere.
Yeah, there's lots of lovely little throwaway bits, particularly about Chick. So Chick won an award. Oh, I can't remember the name of the award. I think it's the Webberley Award, which is the Australian Pulitzer. So Chick is a respected journalist. So apologies if I've got the name of the award wrong, but certainly the book has it right. I was just going from memory. So for a book set in America, there are quite a few nice little Aussie references.
And there's some fun American references as well. At first I thought, maybe Kate Orman attended a convention in DC or Maryland or something, because a lot of there's a lot of travel in this book, and it's kind of the plot very much has like a road trip or On the Lam feel.
Yeah.
Lots of traveling from place to place and sitting around waiting in cars and hotel rooms and lobbies. Well, waiting for the computer I think they have a 300 baud modem, which is very slow. But then I remembered that's where the Maryland area is where John Bloom is from. And that's where his fan film Time Rift was filmed, in the DC and Maryland area. So I'm sure Kate's visited the in-laws there too, in terms of building that background of here's where all the freeways are and stuff, and in terms of little details, you mentioned the ones with Chick Peters, little Americanisms that Peri, like, she's thrilled to be able to drink grape soda again, which has not been available on her travels.
Grape soda is not commonly available outside of North America, from my experience,
or Earth.
Yes, or Earth. Yes. I must say, I'd never developed a taste for grape soda.
Me either.
So back to the plot. Sorry, we're going to have lots of digressions, I think, with this book. Sorry. But so the Doctor decides not to return this mysterious device until he's had a chance to look it over himself. But he does agree to take Chick to a meeting with his contact, who is a guy called Mr. Ghislaine? Ghislaine,
I think.
Ghislaine, yeah. And Ghislaine's a bland-faced man who's accompanied everywhere by a parrot. And he explains that the Doctor is helping to locate the missing components of an alien supercomputer that's been lost on Earth. And the people of the planet Eridani don't have faster than light capability and have dismissed the Earth as an unimportant primitive world. But a robot ship that was aimed for one of their colonies had become confused when it began picking up radio transmissions from Earth and landed there instead. And the Eridani have recovered 3 of the 5 components already, and the Doctor is helping them to locate the remaining 2 in order to keep dangerous alien tech out of the hands of the human race. Now, of course, we've got Chick, this hard-nosed reporter, who's listening in on this, and he doesn't believe a word of all of this. And he reckons that these are code terms being used to cover the fact that these are parts of a prototype Russian supercomputer that's somehow become lost in America.
Yeah, he thinks the Eridani is a code word for Russians. And so then Swan contacts Ian Mond and agrees to stop harassing him if he helps her to locate the people who've been interfering in her business. And he agrees to do so, but he's close to Bob Salmon as well, and Bob's just this 20-year-old college student. So he decides to leave an extremely obvious wiretap at Bob's house, which will tip him off that they're being watched.
Yes.
So that kind of scares them all to retreat to a hotel in Baltimore. And as soon as Bob's house is empty, Sarah Swan was waiting down the block, and she decides to break in to investigate further.
What was home security like in America in the 80s? Because people seem to be able to just drift in and out.
Yeah, I mean, I think you had deadlocks on the doors maybe, but other than that, before the era of like home alarm systems and all of that.
Yes, I guess. But yeah, okay.
But so she breaks in and she's stunned to see in the middle of the floor abandoned filing cabinet from her basement that she was using to store the Eridani component, which is proof that her most precious belongings been stolen from her, and she then vows to crush her opponents. And with Sarah Swan, she is the antagonist, but she does, at various points throughout the story, I was kind of rooting for her. Just because she does have like her own personal code where, if someone crosses her, she doesn't turn them into the police, she just ruins their credit history or things like her responses are always in reaction to other people doing things to her.
She's a warrior.
Yeah.
I mean, she's a warrior. She's also a little bit of I was going to say she's a bit of a vigilante. Is that right? Well, certainly, but yeah, she's a definite fighter. She's quite an interesting antagonist, I think. But yeah. So the Doctor decides not to involve the authorities, but Peri has had enough of being frightened and on the run. And so she decides that when this is over, she's going to leave the Doctor. And so she and Chick switch cars to throw off pursuit. Meanwhile, the Doctor and Bob are trying to follow Swan's email trail, assuming that she would have been looking for the final Eridani component. And Swan tracks them down and contacts them electronically, threatening to destroy their lives if they don't back down and tell her about the mystery device. And the Doctor, in turn, warns her that the devices are too dangerous for her to tamper with, and threatens to inform the authorities of her connection to a mysterious death, of which more later. Swan ignores the threat and signs off, and the Doctor decides to tap her phone in order to find out what else she knows. And Chick is coming to realise that the Doctor, whether he actually believes in aliens or not, genuinely seems to believe that the planet is in danger and will do whatever it takes to get the missing component.
And then Bob decides, turnabout is fair play, so he sets up a tap on Swan's phone, but then returns home to make sure everything is all right and gets the shock of his life when he sees an occult symbol that Swan had stuck to his fridge when she broke in. Bob has this interest in the occult, and there's a few asides that talk about how different occult terms kind of have found their way into computer programming. And so panic-stricken, Bob leaves his home, goes back to the hotel, unaware that Swan's staked out his home and is following him back to the hotel. Swan orders flowers for him, watches to see which room they're delivered to, and then taps that room's phone. And eventually, unable to learn anything more from, the one remaining component, the Doctor contacts Mr. Ghislaine, the person they were talking to earlier, with a parrot and arranges to turn it over. So it's kind of implied that Mr. Ghislaine's one of the Eridani.
Eridani,
yeah.
Well, or at least he's not entirely human.
Mm-hmm. And Swan makes a note of the address and calls the police. And as she's leaving the hotel, she bumps into Chick, Peri, and Bob, who are also leaving. They recognize her and flee, knowing that the Doctor's walking into a trap, but there's no way to warn him, because all pre-mobile phones and all that, too.
Yeah. So, in fact, Swan already knows where the final component is. She and a friend of hers called Luis Perez have bought the two components as a set at an underground auction and have been trying to puzzle them out ever since. And Swan contacts Lewis to warn him that someone might be attempting to steal his device, but he tells her that something amazing has happened. His device has hatched into a living being, and it looks like a lump of muscle in the shape of a Y, and it's got these tiny tentacles for fur. I mean, it's described as looking like a kind of a Muppet.
It's like yellow feathers on it.
Yeah. And this creature is disassembling and reassembling Lego pieces and electronic components whilst Swan and Lewis are watching, and they can't seem to stop watching.
And they're keeping it in a bathtub.
Well, I guess.
So the Doctor walks into this trap that Swan set for him, and he's nearly caught by the police, but he uses the Eridani component to persuade the officers to let him go. And he delivers the device to the Eridani and is reunited with his friends, but sees that Peri's becoming stressed out and admits to Chick that she deserves better than the life she leads with him. Chick still doesn't believe that the devices are alien in origin, but he kind of listens to the Doctor's well-thought-out backstory, where he talks about how these devices are sent out, and they were supposed to use the Earth's sun as like a slingshot, but then some of the radio signals from Earth interfered, and that's what caused it to land on Earth rather than the colony planet that it was intended for.
Oh, well. Yeah, so convinced that Swan has some idea of where to find the lost component, the Doctor taps into a phone line in order to keep an eye on her movements. And he's learned that Swan intends to visit Ocean City and check out Charles Cobb's house for more information. And Charles Cobb was the person whose mysterious death the Doctor had been trying to use as a bargaining chip with Swan previously. And Cobb, he'd arranged this meeting between the Eridani and an obsessive collector who was hoarding the third component, and no one's sure who betrayed who. But whilst the Eridani may have recovered their component, at the end of all of this, Cobb, the collector, and one of the Eridani were dead. And the Doctor hopes that Swan will see reason if they speak face to face. But Swan finds her phone's been tapped and phones Lewis, claiming to be meeting a contact at the Delaware State Fair. Do state fairs often happen around Christmas time?
They don't. Which is why when the Dr. Peri and Chick try to follow her, they realize that they're on a wild goose chase. So you can like access the fairgrounds like off season and stuff like the Minnesota State Fair. There's usually like a comic book convention there twice a year in the spring and the fall. But
maybe not this year.
Yeah, and they're often used for like student drivers to like drive the state fairgrounds as like a training course. But by the time they get there, they realize they're on a wild goose chase, and Swan's already been to Cobb's house and downloaded the last week of email that he had before he died, and she's going through all of that. And then, then Peri gets a device out of the trunk of the car, which the Doctor built. And as the Doctor was building it earlier, we didn't know what it was, but he said, it's a good way to get rid of information quickly. And it's a makeshift flamethrower, which Peri then uses to torch the house, ensuring that nobody else will be able to use Cobb's information. I don't think she realizes that Swan is in the house while she's setting it on fire, and Swan's like leaving through the back. But there's a very imagery of Peri with a flamethrower, and then elsewhere in this novel, Peri smokes cigarettes. So you have a cigarette smoking, flame throwing, companion in this story.
And also, as well, she apparently has a taste for Foster's beer.
Australian for beer, except Australians don't actually drink that.
Yes, do not say that to an Australian.
Anyway, so Swan flees the burning house, and she had never met Cobb, but only knew about him because the Doctor had mentioned him to her earlier. So now she knows that the thing in Lewis's bathtub is the only remaining component of something so powerful that people are willing to kill for it. So she decides to break into Lewis's house and steal the creature in his bathtub.
Yeah. So where could the narrative go now? Well, we go online. So the Doctor agrees to meet Swan in a multiple user dungeon, or MUD, as we used to call them back in the day, which it's a kind of online computer game chat roomy type thing, and it's a neutral territory where they can discuss the creature. So you've got other people doing their kind of like their Dungeons and Dragons online games, and you've got the Doctor and Swan chatting away. And Swan doesn't believe it's alien, but she knows it's more advanced technology than anything else on Earth, and she wants it. All she wants from the Doctor, though, are operating instructions. And she refuses to listen to his warnings, even when Lewis storms into the virtual dungeon, hysterically threatening to kill Swan if she doesn't return the creature. She signs off, and Lewis, apparently suffering from a kind of withdrawal, admits to the Doctor that he purchased the egg, so the device, at an auction in a place called Ritchie. And the Doctor and his friends visit Ritchie, where they find numerous people walking about in a daze, as though trying to remember something important. And it turns out, to the Eridani, even the human brain is only a piece of hardware, which can be physically restructured to run different software. And just as the people of Ritchie have been altered by being near the devices, Swan and Lewis have been reprogrammed to care for the creature even more than they care for their own lives.
Interesting.
Yes. Is Ritchie a real place?
I've never heard of it, so if it is, maybe it's a small town or suburb. Everywhere else seems to be real, so I wouldn't have any reason for it not to be. But
yeah, because I've been to Maryland, but I don't remember. And how is it pronounced? Maryland, isn't it? Rather Maryland and DC. And I think I may have told you this before. I was staying at a friend's house in DC, and I tuned into PBS for the first time ever in my life, and it was Pledge Night, and they were showing the 5 Doctors. And I thought, oh, of course it is. It's always Pledge Night.
Doing a quick Google search, it appears that Ritchie is Fort Ritchie, which is in Maryland, just south of the Pennsylvania state line.
Oh, okay.
It was a military base that closed in 1998.
Okay.
So,
Okay.
real place.
A real place.
So then Bob Salmon hacks into Sarah Swan's email and credit card accounts and determines that she's wired her home with security cameras and motion detectors and is emailing these pictures to her account at work. And the doctor remarks that she created a webcam. And it's interesting, too, because like these images are very, they're pre-VGA, so they're like 6 colors and very blocky.
Yeah.
So they can't really see much with them. So some of the pictures indicate there's something living in Swan's bathtub, but still unsure of the true nature of the device, the doctor contacts Ghislaine again, who explains that the device has the ability to hack into and reprogram any computer hardware, including the human brain. In effect, it's like an idiot savant with a talent for hacking computers, and it's born with the ability to reproduce itself. If it gets out of Swan's limited control, it could wreak havoc within the Earth's primitive computer systems. So the creature's kind of referred to as the savant throughout the rest of the book.
Yeah. So Sarah Swan watches the creature as it studies her computer, and it writes a program from scratch, tests and debugs it, and then once it's done, it goes back to playing with Lego. And Sarah Swan, interestingly, she's unable to concentrate on her own work while the savant is nearby. And she mails a copy of the program to her work account and tears herself away from the savant and goes to the office to study the program there. And Bob breaks in, gets a copy of the program and emails it to the doctor, though Swan catches him and has him arrested for illegal entry. And then Bob Salmon's father bails him out, although the father's very upset with the doctor for the fact that his son now has a criminal record. Bob manages to convince him that they're working to prevent a hacker from seizing control of potentially every computer connected to the ARPANET. As the net continues to expand, it could mean, apparently, that thousands of computers could be affected over the next 30 to 40 years. Oh, yes. So Mr. Salmon, realising that Bob is doing some important work, reluctantly agrees to let him continue with what he's doing.
And I'm sure Bob can delete his criminal record later anyway.
Yeah.
So Bob is still kind of unnerved by the occult symbol that Sarah had put on his fridge and decides to design his own and gives it to the doctor for protection, kind of like a good occult symbol. And
Yeah.
which the doctor just kind of glances at and puts in his pocket. And the program Bob copied from Swan's computer then begins running on the doctor's Apple machine, but then the doctor switches it off before it can make more copies of itself. The doctor then tracks down Swan, who's still convinced that the Savant is a secret government project, and she's searching the net for some trace of its manual. She then offers to drop charges against Bob if the doctor tells her how it works, but she signs off quickly when the doctor only repeats his warnings to stay away from the creature. And desperate, she contacts the reporter Chick and demands to know what he's learned about the doctor. And when Chick Peters claims neutrality, Swan furiously begins to use homophobic language against him. So the language in this book, there are parts that feel very early 1980s in terms of use of derogatory terms. So a bit of a warning there that's present.
And they're still in the Kindle version as well. There are some books that were in the New Adventures in the 90s I can think of that when they went onto Kindle, some language that would be very offensive was removed. But not here. Yeah, so Chick, as a result of Swan's behaviour, decides which side he's on. And so he waits until Sarah Swan's at work and breaks into her house to steal the Savant. But he can't stop looking at it, and it keeps him entranced until Swan shows up to protect it. And when Chick Peters tries to take it from her, he ends up reliving the one time that he took angel dust. And it's the memory so powerful that the reliving of it nearly kills him. And Chick retreats, and Swan strikes back by calling his editor and revealing that Chick was fired from his job on the West Coast, possibly for punching an editor who'd called him gay. So, yeah.
Yeah. With the acid flashback that Chick experiences, I think that was triggered by the creature trying to reprogram his memories, and that's what caused him to relive that. And there's a hint that the flashback that he experiences is similar to the story or the dream we had in the prologue. with the riding of the bull. So now Lewis is barely functional, and he both kind of hates the savant for realizing what it's done to him, but desperately needs to have it back. And then the doctor realizes that Lewis might be beyond saving, but he's the only one who can get close to the savant now without being attacked mentally like Chick was. So the Iridani sends the doctor an interrupt program, which will shut down the savant if necessary, but the doctor intends to only use this as a last resort, as he's unsure what effect it will have on Lewis or the people of Ritchie. And then there's a lot of breaking and entering of different homes, and I think you kind of realize that a lot of the hacking is really no more than breaking in and looking for passwords written down, or, very low-tech style hacking.
Yeah.
But
yeah, I mean, I guess some books you'd have a lot of running down corridors. Here we've got a lot of running down virtual corridors, and and some minor theft.
And now that Chick's break-in attempts failed, Swan now believes that it's safe to leave the savant alone, and Louis successfully steals it after Bob cuts the security camera feed. So Louis has the savant, which he's stolen from Swan's tub.
Okay.
So he's stolen it back.
Yeah. So on their way back to the hotel, the Doctor and his friends realise that they're being followed by Ian Mond. Remember him? And Chick goes back to Ian's car to find out what he wants, but Swan is in the back seat with a shotgun. And Ian flees as Swan tries to retrieve the savant, but the Doctor's got no choice other than to operate the interrupt. And the savant freezes up, Louis Perez goes limp, and Sarah Swan nearly shoots them all in a fit of rage, though she ends up dragging Lewis back to Mond's car and drives him back to their home. And there she sits and watches as Lewis plays with Lego, and which is one of the creepy usages of Lego I've seen in quite some time.
Yeah. Kate Orman does get the plural of Lego right. Which is also Lego.
Yeah.
So then Sarah Swan calls the university and threatens to involve them unless they take action against Bob. But the Doctor's been expecting her to seek revenge, and so he's already set it up to forward her call to Bob's father, who pretends to be Bob's supervisor at the university, which buys his son a few days leeway, also because they're on break and classes don't start up again until, January. But Chick Peters isn't so lucky because Swan has finally learned a truth about him, and she presents Chick's editor with proof, and Chick's editor calls his home to demand an explanation, and the Dr. Peri and Bob all hear the voicemail message he leaves on the machine, where he reveals that Chick Peters was born a woman. So there's an implication that Chick mentions in the text that his hormones inside are XY, which might lead to the conclusion that he's intersex, but it's also mentioned in the narrative that he, binds his breasts and he identifies as male. So I think in modern 2020 terminology, we might say that Chick is transgender, but it kind of leaves it open to interpretation. And I also don't know that back in 2003, when Kate Orman was writing this, that gender dynamics were as built out as they are now, where some of these terms might not have been in common use at the time.
Yeah.
What are your thoughts?
Yeah, I'm nervous of saying the wrong thing, but I think I'll be cowardly and say yes, what you said.
Both you and I are cisgender, so it's we're probably not the best people to explain or define these terms, but I took it to mean that Chick Peters is a trans man.
Yeah, but the beauty of this is that the Doctor doesn't care, nor really do the rest of the other characters.
Or really Chick Peters' editor either. It seems like I don't think he's going to be fired for this necessarily, because he's a good reporter and valuable, and they don't want to lose him either. Yeah. But yeah, it is nice, at least, especially for 2003 when this was written, that it wasn't particularly remarkable, from the Doctor's perspective, but you also still get the villain, Sarah Swan, trying to use, this piece of information as leverage to out Chick Peters to others. So, and a lot of that too, I think, is couched in the time, when the story is set of 1981, and certainly Swan is portrayed with this and with her earlier use of homophobic language. Not the nicest person.
No. No. So so the Doctor makes clear that he doesn't care about Chick's secrets, but what he is interested in is finding out why Swan has kidnapped Lewis and what the Savant's program does. So the program tries to copy itself out of Swan's system, but the Doctor, Bob and Peri break into her house and physically disconnect her computer before it can spread itself through the ARPANET. And whilst they're gone, Sarah Swan contacts Chick and demands to meet him at a restaurant. Which is, given what she's just tried to do. But so she's sitting in a booth with Lewis when Chick arrives, and Chick watches in horror as Swan orders the waitress to bring them $100 bills straight from the till. And the waitress does this unquestioningly. Her eyes kind of glaze over like the people in Richie. Mm. And with Lewis at her side, Sarah can hack any system, even a human brain, and she'll soon have total control over the only world she cares about, the world inside the computer.
Yeah, there's a reference that she could use this power to take over the world, but she's really more interested in just taking over the internet. Which nowadays is one and the same, yeah.
Yeah, pretty much.
So Chick, who's shaken and terrified by witnessing this telepathic power that's been developed here, he tells Swan all about the Doctor's bizarre story about aliens, and Swan's not buying it, but allows him to leave. And then Chick calls the Doctor, who realizes that the Savant's computer program is a copy of the Savant itself, a self-replicating program capable of adapting itself to any system.
Like a virus, would you say?
Yes. Yeah, I don't think they ever use that term either. You know,
no, they don't. But...
hint around it, but yeah. And when the Doctor tries to shut down the Savant, it simply copied itself into Lewis's brain, overwriting the instructions which were already there. And if he tries to use the interrupt again, the Savant will simply copy itself into the nearest person. And it may not even need to be in danger to replicate, which is why everyone it encounters seems dazed and disoriented afterwards, because there's a dormant copy of the Savant inside their brains, taking up most of their mental functions and awaiting only a trigger to activate it fully. And if Swan continues to use Lewis for her own ends, the Savant's quote-unquote eggs will spread exponentially until Earth is a world of zombie computers waiting for the Iridani to arrive and harvest them.
So there's lots of asymptomatic infection going on.
There is. But you can't really wash your hands in this case.
No, you can't.
You have to wash your brain.
Yes, which is harder to do. So the Doctor calls Sarah Swan on the payphone next to her car and gives her one last chance to see reason, but he's unable to prove his claims, and so she hangs up on him. And she and Lewis then walk into a bank and leave with enough money to get out of Washington and start up elsewhere. But there's traffic on the Cabin John Bridge. It's real bad traffic, which I assume is a bridge in DC. Everything else seems to be accurate, so I guess it is. I've probably been on it. And according to Sarah Swan's police scanner, it's due to a roadblock that's been set up to catch her. So she takes a detour only to spot the Doctor waiting for her, because he's used a stolen police radio to broadcast a fake message and drive Swan into his path. Furious, Swan orders Lewis to fry the Doctor's brain once he's close enough.
And we didn't mention it in the narrative, but there are several times throughout this, because as I mentioned before, they were kind of like, on the lam, and it's kind of like a chase movie almost, or kind of a back and forth.
Yeah.
And the Doctor and company eventually trade up vehicles until they get a RV camper that they're tooling around DC and Maryland in, which I thought was just kind of a funny.
Yeah.
The Doctor and his gang all in an RV brings back flashbacks of the old Shazam TV series.
Okay. I've never seen it.
It's a Filmation show from the 70s where he travels around in an RV. But
okay.
With his logo on the hood.
Oh, okay.
Even though he's undercover, but he's driving around in the Shazam RV. Yeah.
Well, Unit were doing similar things, weren't they? Yeah.
So the Doctor then flees to Great Falls Park, which I assume is also real, and which is all but deserted at this time of year. But he's underestimated the Savant's power and nearly leaves too late to use the interrupt signal. Fortunately, as the Savant launches its attack, the occult symbol that Bob drew for the Doctor falls out of his pocket before his eyes. And the Doctor's distracted and looks at it, and the symbol, which is completely meaningless, gives the Doctor nothing to focus on consciously, but in that moment of distraction, the Doctor is able to operate the interrupt signal, and the Savant tries to copy itself into Swan, but the interrupt signal shuts down that copy as well, and the Doctor only survives because the Savant momentarily has nothing to latch onto, with his conscious mind being preoccupied.
Yeah, I must say, I'm still not entirely convinced how that works as the way.
Well,
yeah.
I think it was a commentary on like occult symbols, being superstitious and not rooted in reality.
I can see why you would say that, though. Kate Orman, I think, was a practicing Wiccan,
Oh, huh.
according to the TARDIS wiki page. So I'm not sure. Yeah,
Because, from the Doctor's perspective, he's looking at it from, I think, a more skeptical lens. And that's what allows him to break out of that trance. But interesting. No, I didn't know that about Kate.
Yeah, I mean, I guess it's one of these things. It's been appearing so often in the narrative. You're thinking, yeah, this is going to go somewhere, isn't it?
Yeah.
So the Savant seems to have been stopped, and the Eridani helped the Doctor repair the damage to the innocent bystanders that were affected by the Savant. So Lewis and Sarah Swan, they're near catatonic, and they're beyond help. But the Doctor's all too aware that whilst Earth was never the intended target, this was nevertheless a successful test of a weapons system. So the Doctor and Peri set off on their travels again, whilst Ian Mond gets a job with the phone company. I don't know whether the real life Ian Mond worked for a phone company. And Bob keeps on kind of working as like a sysadmin, and Lewis is looked after by his family down in Mexico, and Sarah Swan ends up in the Bainbridge Hospital. And the Bainbridge Institute is referenced in Seeing Eye. So
that's why that name was familiar. I thought there was... So kind of like implying that may have continued in some form, or maybe...
Possibly.
She just likes the name.
Yes. And Chick starts a new life elsewhere with his wife Sally, and he eventually writes a book called Blue Box, changing some of the names and details to protect the innocent as well as the guilty. And there ends Blue Box. So what did you make of this?
Kind of a mixed bag, I think. I liked it. Mm-hmm. I didn't find any torture scenes involving the Doctor.
Yeah! That's a surprise,
That was surprising.
Yes.
Yeah, it was... It definitely held my attention, and it... I don't know that I would put it in the great category.
Okay.
But what were your initial impressions about it?
So, I'm very conscious that I work in computing, and I did a degree in computing, and I've done stuff about the history of computing. So yeah, I lapped a lot of this up. I have to say, and also I do like spy things, and this was a genre that I very much enjoyed, and I like the notion that maybe Kate Orman here is trying to give the Sixth Doctor almost kind of like an Andrew Cartmel era. Because A, he's dressed in the clothes that Colin Baker actually wanted, and B, this feels like a Cartmel story. Mm-hmm. And I don't know if there's been a change of script editor. Would the Sixth Doctor have had a story like this on TV? Probably not. It gives the Sixth Doctor a kind of like a New Adventures energy, but it still feels like the Sixth Doctor. Mm-hmm. Admittedly, a bit more of a mellowed one. But there are some lovely there's he gets annoyed by people calling him Doc, and he says it's Doc Tor. The second syllable is just as precious as the first. And also as well, there's a username that the Doctor uses of Geoffrey, which is a reference to an 18th century poem that I must say I'd never heard of before. And he quotes the poem says, "For he can spraggle upon waggle at the word of command." And there's lots of lovely things. He's like, yeah, no, this does feel like the Sixth Doctor. And it feels like a slightly more lived-in Peri as well. So, yeah, I did enjoy it. Yeah, it was... Though I can also see it has flaws as well. So, yeah.
A couple of thoughts. So one on the narrative structure. I wish we would have gotten more, maybe not from Chick Peter's point of view, because I felt myself missing, there's no scene set in the TARDIS. There's, it's all through that lens of, Peri and Doctor are just potentially agents involved in this sort of thing. And
yeah, it could be like Remington Steele, couldn't it?
Yeah. It left me wanting more, I guess, from the Sixth Doctor. I felt like Kate Orman did a really good job with Peri, and kind of exploring, here's the reasons why I initially traveled with the Doctor. These don't make as much sense now. And kind of her going through that self-examination of, why am I still traveling with this guy if all we're doing is bickering?
Yeah.
And I feel like that helps explain like the mellowing of their relationship between seasons 22 and 23 a little bit. But then I also was, at one point I thought, would this story have worked better if it was a Sixth Doctor and Mel story versus Peri, especially given Mel's history as a computer programmer.
Yes.
And her knowledge of megabyte modems. Although I can see why she picked Peri, because
the American setting,
the American setting, but then also the Doctor, if he's surrounded by hackers, he doesn't have to explain terms to people, so Peri very much acts as that, that audience interlocutor asking the questions and stuff. But I kept thinking, like, I wonder how this would have worked or felt if it had been a Sixth Doctor and Mel story.
Yeah, as you say, I think people would have got lost potentially, or you needed to have had another character in there to act as the audience point.
Mm-hmm.
I do want to know kind of where the Doctor did his Unix course. He's got some good skills there. Well, maybe it was when he and Romana were dropping computers off in New Zealand or or Australia or wherever it was. But yeah. And
I guess with Chick Peters being transgender or intersexed, that felt like it dated the book a little bit. Especially in the language used, and the revelation felt a little sensationalized, kind of very much in the Crying Game, or Boys Don't Cry. There's a lot of crying movies in the 90s involving gender issues, but that aspect for me dated the book more than, say, the technology depicted within it. Strangely enough,
I did. Yeah, that is one of the things that I have kind of qualms about, I have to say. Though I can also kind of see it gives you representation, but it's just, Yeah,
I mean, having a transgender character in 2003, I think that's great, especially for the time, and especially being the main character. But just in terms of how his gender identity was weaponized, by the villain, that plays into a lot of tropes and stereotypes that I think, had this been written now, probably avoid those while still having that representation, hopefully.
Yeah.
One thing, I really liked the section that was set inside the mud dungeon that had a very like Zork-like feel with all the descriptions of the go north or go inside the house and all of that.
Yeah.
I also enjoyed all of the kind of the call forwards to where technology was going. So like the Doctor mentioning like, someday we'll be able to order a pizza online.
Yeah.
There were a couple of quotes where Kate Orman's thoughts about the internet were shining through, where she's one of the characters says, "The written word is far more precise than speech. Imagine conversations without the mumbling, the false starts, the half-chewed ideas. Imagine a world of people talking in sentences that they've actually thought about first. The net is going to change how we think." But then, and I think this is Bob Salmon who's making these comments, and he goes on to say, and this was very prescient of Kate Orman back in 2003, and I think especially as social media was taking off, where he says, "Well, that will work as long as everyone in the world doesn't get a computer." And Peri asks, isn't the idea to make computers like TVs or toasters, kind of foreshadowing the whole smart appliances thing?
Yeah.
And Bob replies, "It's not going to make the net a better place if everybody in the world climbs on board. College professors and scientists talking to each other is one thing, but garbage collectors, housewives?" So
Yeah.
Interesting.
There's also, as well, there's some beautiful descriptions. There's a bit where it says that American forests smell different. They have a rich, dirty, wet smell that you could cut with a knife, whereas Australian forests have their own delicate, dry smell. It's like comparing coffee to tea. And yes, that 100%. Also, at one point, there's a used car dealership where it sort of describes the kind of the cars as nestling under the awnings to kind of keep away from the rain. And yeah, sure, some of this is Chick Peters' descriptive stuff. I mean, the guy's won an Australian Pulitzer. But yeah, it makes it for a really enjoyable read. And also, apologies to Antipodean listeners. I got the name of the award wrong. I think it was a Walkley, but anyway, rather than a Webley, whatever it was I said. But yes, anyway, it is a genuine award. So, yeah. So, what mark do you think you're going to give?
I think for this one it would be a 7 out of 10 for me.
Okay.
It was a fun read. The whole story felt very analog in a charming kind of low-tech way, and it would have been a very different story if it was even set, say, a decade later, technology-wise. The stakes of the story and the plot for most of the book seemed a little small-scale or pedestrian to me, where, it's a lot of chasing and running around, and it's only towards the very end that you get kind of the Doctor Who stakes involved. But, how about yourself?
So, yeah, I think, oh gosh, I was toing and froing. I think I will give it a 9. I would have given it a 10 apart from some of the things that we've spoken about. I really enjoyed this, but I'm also conscious, that it's about things that I'm really quite interested in, and it's a well executed. It is a well written sort of cybercrime thing. And it does not drown the reader in technobabble, I think. I did enjoy. I recognise what you say about the smaller stakes, but I also did find that kind of refreshing in a way. I think as well. We've had 2 books in a row with comparatively smaller stakes, and that's not necessarily a bad thing. I mean, I think as well. Also, people will still enjoy this. I mean, if you've heard, if you've been listening to us speak about this and you haven't read it, I still think it is something worth seeking out, given that it's quite widely available. It's on Kindle and stuff. So. I wish I could. I genuinely wish I could give it a 10, but I can't.
There's 3 or 4 moments in the book where Kate Orman does something really clever with time and the narrative, where we see events portrayed one way, and then a few paragraphs or the next chapter later, we get little flashbacks about what really happened, or where the narrative kind of goes forward and then backs up a little and then keeps going forward. And I almost wish that there were more of those scenes, because the story's very kind of straightforward already, and maybe jumbling up the timeline in the book a little bit more might have given the story a little bit more added complexity, I guess, plot-wise, where outside of, the whole computer technology, which is all very complex and stuff. But I also felt like I did learn a little bit, about like, oh, here's how, phone systems used to be, landlines especially used to be set up. And that was interesting, if for no other reason, just from a historical perspective, looking back on it.
Sidney Newman would be proud, wouldn't he?
Yes.
Yeah.
It definitely fulfills that. For sure. Yeah.
And Sarah Swan's an interesting villain. As you said, I mean, she is not out and out evil. I mean, she's
homophobic, but setting that aside.
Yeah. Do not get me wrong. She is not a good person. I'll make this very clear. But also, she's believable. I think that's probably what I was.
Yeah, it's that old adage of the villains never think they're doing the villainous thing, right?
Oh yeah. Yeah, and she generally seems to think that she's the hero in her story, which I think is a sign of a well-written villain.
Yeah, I agree with you there.
I did wonder whether you would mark that book lower, just because of unreliable narrator and stuff like that. But I'm glad you enjoyed it.
I did, yeah. When I read the descriptions for it, I was thinking it would be more like a retrospective of the Sixth Doctor's era, similar to what we got with Who Killed Kennedy.
Yeah.
Where the reporter following the Doctor... And I was thinking, maybe to differentiate it from Who Killed Kennedy rather than televised adventures, maybe it would be like going through the Sixth Doctor's like book adventures or some sort of thing like that. But my concept of what Blue Box was very different from the tale. But I mean, I still enjoyed it, even though it just expectations wise was different than what I thought it would be.
So, right, that's Blue Box. Thank you very much.
I enjoyed it for sure, and I would recommend folks read it on Kindle with some of the warnings and caveats we've mentioned.
Yes.
So we move on to listener feedback.
Yeah, let's. Listen. Oh, we didn't actually say it was the 100th.
100th.
This was the 100th.
Oh, that's right. Yeah. Do we want to say anything about that?
I think it's just nice we've got Sean on, so I think we're fine. I think we're okay. Cool.
Technically our 102nd, if we count the novellas and the targets as separate too. But 100th show, how about that?
Yeah, it's the 100th show. Yes, exactly.
All right. We have another new email this month.
Oh, cool.
This one is from Jay in New Zealand. He writes, I've been listening for a couple of years, and after enjoying the original Doctor Who Book Club podcast, I've enjoyed what you have been reading and discussing. Some of the first Doctor Who novels I read were the Body Snatchers from the 8th Doctor range, as well as Fear of the Dark and Palace of the Sun.
Okay.
I was thrilled to hear that you'd be covering Kate Orman's Blue Box, a book I've enjoyed. Looking forward to hear what you think. And then he has a couple of recommendations. The 4th Doctor novel Festival of Death by Jonathan Morris, who was the author for Touched by an Angel, I think.
Yes, it was.
I looked that book up and I was pleased to see that it did not feature Leela. And it had been reprinted a few years back, so
yes,
that one's definitely under consideration. And then he also wonders if we'd consider reviewing one of the Torchwood novels, since we've reviewed non-Doctor Who titles with companion figures before. I guess Torchwood novels would be under consideration, as well as like the Class novels and even the Sarah Jane Adventure audiobook exclusives. I think there are 10 or so of those.
Yeah.
In terms of spin-offs, I would probably draw the line at like, the Telos Time Hunter series or the Miranda comics, which were never completed, or Graceless or Vienna. Those types of spin-offs I think would be outside the scope, but we've done a Faction Paradox book. So I could see us doing a Torchwood one at some point.
Well, we did a Faction Paradox book that was a Benny book originally.
Oh, that's right, yeah. But Benny's a spin-off where we've done some Benny books, so why not?
Yeah. Oh, it would be interesting to do a Torchwood book at some point. That's not what we're doing next month, but anyway.
So thanks, Jay, for writing in. And if other listeners want to send us an email with their thoughts or future book recommendations or thoughts on Blue Box or any of our previous novels, you can reach us at andwbcpodcast@gmail.com.
Yeah. Cool.
Anything on the Facebook side?
Yeah. So we heard from Paul McGarvey. I hope I've pronounced your name right, Paul. Who was interested in finding out some of the episodes of the old show. So we shared him a link, and we do every now and again retweet that, so where you can find some of the episodes of the original show.
Featuring our reader this month, Sean.
Yes, yeah, indeed, and also Eric, who has been a reader earlier on this year. It was this year, wasn't it? This year feels like it's been going on for ages.
Yeah, I think it was back in February, so a couple years ago.
Yes. Yeah.
On the Twitter side, we've got Keith saying that he loved the podcast about Way Through the Woods, and Sabrina Cox remembers liking that novel quite a lot. Justin Partridge is loving all of the Una McCormack love and says that she's a real consistent presence in the new licensed books. Anders from Earth 8096 writes that they're finally getting back into the Doctor Who books and thinks they found the perfect podcast.
Cool. Good.
And they just got into Nuclear Time and count Touched by an Angel as one of their favorites. And then finally, author David Solomons thanked us for mentioning his new 13th Doctor book that came out last month. It's called The Maze of Doom, and it's a follow-up to the previous Secret in Vault 13.
Cool.
So
yeah,
I think that brings us to what we're going to be reading for July.
Yeah. So I kind of figured that we need a treat, don't we? So I think as well, let's do a new adventure.
Oh wow,
it's been quite a while since I've done a new adventure, and
yeah.
And tell you what, shall we do one of the biggies? yeah, let's do something we've been hearing a lot about, both as a concept and also as a work of fiction in recent months. We're going to be reading Human Nature, Matt.
Oh, very cool. By Paul Cornell.
By Paul Cornell, yeah.
And
yeah,
let's say the original book club never did that one?
No, they never did that one.
Huh.
They never did that one. I have checked.
Very cool. Wow. Well, I might have to do a rewatch of the episode too at some point.
Yeah.
Wow, that's fantastic.
That's available on Kindle. It's available on paperback and stuff. So there are various different ways you can get hold of this. Quite a few libraries would have this as well.
Yeah, because it was reprinted, I think, around the time of the 50th too.
Yes. Yeah, so certainly my local library, feels like a very long time since I last stepped in my local library, but that has physical copies of it, and so I think because it had been on TV, it probably might be something that you would see in a few different library systems.
Great pick for next month. That'll be fun. And I've never actually read it, so...
Cool.
Who's the companion? Is it just Benny, or is it a Benny and Ace?
No, it's just Benny.
Oh, I've never read that one.
Wow. Okay, it's not long after set piece. I will warn you, listener. There is a little bit of language, but I don't know whether that is still whether that's been removed for the 21st century reprints. I know that they did have to do some editing when it was on the BBC website for a while, because for a little bit, this and The Dying Days and
Lungbarrow, I think, was on there.
Yeah,
too.
Lungbarrow. Yeah, were on the BBC website. Yeah, so Human Nature.
Well, I'm looking forward to it. Cool. Well, until next month, this has been Matt in Minnesota.
Chris in South London. Happy reading and stay safe.
Thank you for listening to the all-new adventures of the Doctor Who Book Club podcast. Special thanks to George C. Music for use of their song Doctor Who Theme Swing Jazz Version. You can follow us on Twitter at ANDWBC Podcast and like us on Facebook. Help other listeners to find us by leaving a rating or review on Apple Podcasts or your podcatcher of choice. You can contact the show by emailing your thoughts to andwbcpodcast@gmail.com. And until next month, happy reading.
My neighbor decided to start mowing her lawn right now, so just curious if
excellent.
you can hear that in the back.
Hear it. No, I can't.
Okay, good, because I can hear it quite loudly. So.
Oh, I can now that you mention it. I can. It's not awful.
Mm-hmm. Should we wait or?
How big's the lawn?
Sorry, the mowing is getting louder. So.
Yeah, I did hear it just then.
Okay, take 3.
Shall I ask you? And in there, she makes a reference to a future Sixth Doctor story. Oh God! And now we've got interruptions on my end. Sorry, I'm just going to go to this.
It's okay.
Hang on. Thank you. Cheers.
It'll make for a good post-credit bit.
Saunders. Okay, if you must come into the room. Right. God. Hello. Sorry about that. Yes.
Post-credit sequence will be fun this month.
Yes. Yeah, we're expecting that possibly to happen on Monday. But anyway. Right, marvellous. Yes, and also now the rabbit has barged her way into the room. But fortunately, the rabbit's a quiet presence. Sorry, I was wittering on about Kate Orman, and I think I'd kind of come towards the end of my point. But anyway. Which can be physically Sorry, something really noisy went past. Sorry, I'll just read that again.
So I remember using that one.
Oh, you've gone. Oh, gosh. Oh, dearie
And
dear.
I thought last month was...
problematic.
Oh, so I think I was talking about phone hacking when my internet went out, coincidentally.
Yes, if this keeps on happening, then we'll assume that it's Sarah Swan.
Yeah.